don't can, the big room will be empty. Yes, I right now stay in the Center of Conservation Biology. But when I was in China, my major is forest economics, because I also work in the field of human dimension, wildlife conservation. So I was hosted by this center. Today I will talk about share my understanding on the community forest and the nature reserve in China based on the social-ecological system founded by the Australia. Here is the outline. I will start from the introduction about the community forest and the nature reserve in China. Possibly you know that in China the land tenure system is complicated and also simple. But when we say simple, because all the land in China is classified into two types: the national land or the collective land. All the land in the city, in the urban, are national land, and all urban land are located in the rural China. But some in rural China, some land are also belonging to the nation. So that's simple, also complicated. So if you classify the land in terms of the use, we have two types of forest land. The first type is commercial. That means you can harvest for commercial purpose. The second is ecological forest. So ecological forest is mainly for offering ecological service. So they are conserved or preserved. So right in China, the ratio of national forest and the collective forest is roughly 1:1. Roughly 1:1. Just here, this geographic map shows the location of forest in China. This is the northeast of China. Most forests are national forest. And in the south of China, this area, most of the forests belong to the collective. That means belong to the rural community. And in the west-east of China, south of China, southwest of China, the forest land is a combine of collective forest and national forest. So why we say the forest classification in China is complicated? You can find the result from this table. It's really complicated. Yes, this is the collective forest. This is the national forest. For the national forest, the property right is a little bit simple. But for the collective forest, the property right is very complicated. So, I mean, the forest land, you see the ownership and use right. The ownership of the collective forest the land belonging to the collective. But the use right can be belonging to the collective, can also belong to the individual, the use right. So that means the use right is separated to the ownership. But for that's about the land. And this is the stampage, that's a biomass on the land. The biomass on the land can be belonging to the collective, can also belong to the individual, belong to the farmer. So that's why we say it's very complicated. But for the national forest, the sense is much more simple. So everything belongs to the nation, belongs to the government. And many belong to the central government, but it's in charge by the provincial government. So that's what do we say, the classification system. Since 2003 in China, we initiated a new round of collective forest tenure reform. 2003. Yes, you know that the collective forest is regarded as the public property right, and the public property right is usually regarded as a lack of efficiency. The public property right. So you may know the very famous theory of Harding charging. That's exactly about the commons, the lack of efficiency of commons. So in China, we initiated such a reform, tried to transform the collective property right into private property right. But you know that it's impossible for ownership. So the transformation mainly focuses on the use right. That means in all the time the use right of a forest, collective forest right grow into the collective. But right now, through this reform, that distributed to the individual farmer, to the what do we say, the member of the collective. So that's a reform. You may see this picture about the how to identify the boundary of the forest plot. In the old time, the land owned by the collective together and used by the collective together. But right now, through the reform, the large plot is usually divided into several small pieces, several small plots. So you need to identify the boundary for each family. And they also to check the the history document to identify the corresponding property right for each family. And also there are some conflicts when you identify the boundary. The main conflicts, you know, is because it's very difficult to identify the boundary of the land, especially forest land. And there are some kind of workshop or meeting to solve such conflicts in the practice. Yes, this is the results of the reform. Here is the two figures show us something change. This is the percentage of forest to be distributed in nationwide. That's for the whole nation. For whole nation, this means roughly 60% of the land, the use right of a forest land, has been transferred into the individual farmer. That's nationwide. But for some province, the more than 80% of the use right of a collective forest distributed to the farmer. That's one aspect. Here is another aspect of the reform. So there are very sharp reduction of the tax burden, very sharp. So in the older time, the tax might account for more than 60% of the sale price, very high in the old time. But after the reform, the tax account for about 20% of the sale price. So there are very sharp reduction of the tax, the reform. Actually, in China, since 2005, the China central government has removed all tax for crop products, for agricultural crops protection. It's just in China. So you can find this picture shows the farmer is very happy when they get a certificate to prove they have the use right. And here is a market. This is the market for production factors. That means you can sell or buy use right of a forest land in this market. And here is the billboard to release the information about the tax and other forest institutions. That's make all the institutions more transparent. That's also the result of the reform. And yes, sorry, it's done. Actually, this is a place for auction or bidding of the forest land. That's also for the use right. Okay. So if we make a summary, that means that through the collective forest land reform, something change is ownership. So something change is the use right of the forest land, and also reduce the tax burden. And the measures is to try to secure the use right of a collective forest for the farm and reduce the cost of the farm. So the reform is expected by the government to inspire farmers' motivation in forest management and enhance the allocation efficiency of a collective forest. That's a very primary objective for the government. Because the government also believes, one reason I mentioned is the try to transform the collective property right into the private property right, for it's believed that the private property right will be more efficient. That's one reason. The second reason is they believe in all the time the forests were in charge by the community, and the community was a lack of a profession in forest management. And the revenue from the forest management are not really allocated to the farm. That's widely believed. So why is there such kind of reform? So in one sentence is that the reform is targeted to the efficiency and the equity, both objectives. Yes, we follow the reform, and we have some, actually we do have some research for the reform to make some evaluation on the performance of the reform. And we found, what we found is that even the government wants the farmer have a higher experience and they are inspired in forest management. The truth is not that. It is not what the government expects. Because yes, you may find the keyword is partialization. In the study area of this paper, we found that in some families, they have more than 10 plots of forest. More than 10 plots of forest. But for the small piece, the acreage might be 0.01 hectare. So that means very small pieces. They cannot manage, they cannot harvest, they can. So why? Because the forest land, the forest plot is divided evenly. So everybody gets the same. That's a problem. That's a story about the collective forest in China. And then let me tell you something about the nature reserve in China. Actually, the nature reserve to the IUCN category of the protected area, nature reserve is only one type of the protected area. But in China, nature reserve is dominate the protected area in China. So this is the percentage of nature reserve is blue, the blue section, this blue section. So the nature reserve account for 15% of national area land in China. And other type of protected area account for other 9.6%. The nature reserve is a very strict protected area, but that's the truth in China. So the first nature reserve in China was founded in 1956. And right now we have more than 2,000 nature reserves. Among them, there are more than 400 national nature reserves. So national nature reserve means this nature reserve is important at national level. And we also established the first national park. This is a little bit curious, you know. The national park actually might be the same as the nature reserve in wildlife conservation or in biodiversity conservation. But in China, our government believes that the national park will be higher than nature reserve. That's another story. If you're interested, I can tell you later. Yes, this is a picture taken in the community nearby the nature reserve. You might find that the poverty still are very significant features of the community around the nature reserve. This old lady, very poor. All the money, I mean, all expenditure for 1 year will no more than $100. No, very poor. You know, the road is also very bad. And the local people, they don't have the good understanding of the wildlife conservation. They do not keep the good relationship between the nature reserve and their community. You see, this gentleman actually show his hostile to us, not so friendly, bad relationship. And actually, this stone billboard is what? Let's conserve wildlife together. But the billboard was broken by the local people, angry people. Yes, here is the geographic overlap of community forest, collective forest, and nature reserve. Okay, here is the overlap of the community collective forest and nature reserve. Yes, I'll show you. This line and this dot exactly indicate the provincial nature reserve. Provincial. This means the ratio of the nature reserve. They have the collective forest in the reserve. The ratio of nature reserve with collective forest within the reserve. So the blue one means the national nature reserve. You have found that this place, this Hunan, this place, this province, almost nearly more than 80% of nature reserve with collective forest inside. More than 80%. That's for the provincial nature reserve. For the national nature reserve, you can find this is Guangdong province, almost 80% of the nature reserve with collective forest inside, also very high. So that's what we say, very serious overlapping. But you might wondering why? Yes, and you might wondering the effects of the nature reserve on the local people. A lot of collective forest owned by the farm, owned by the collective member, by the community member, are involved in the nature reserve. They're not allowed for using, no, or very limited use. So that will be huge problem. And also there are huge, very large population in the local nature reserves, large population. Altogether, for the nationwide in China, there was 10 million people living in and around the nature reserve. 10 million. Even in the core zone of a nature reserve, there are some people living inside. That's something different. You know, in China, we establish a national park, yes. But we also have people living inside the national park that are totally different when we talk about the national park in US. Different. Yes, our research question is we are interested to look into the sustainability of nature reserve in China, especially the possible effects of the local community on the nature reserve. Yes, we also concern the livelihood of the people, of the local people, the local community, how they are affected by the nature reserve. That means we concern the sustainable development both of the nature reserve and the local community. And we are interested to figure out what affects the sustainability. And actually, we also observe that in our field work, that some nature reserve have quite a good relationship with nearby community, but some other nature reserve have very bad relationship with nearby community. So we are very interested to figure out why. So, and then our final destination is to figure out the resolution to promote the sustainable development. Yes, you might see that for this nature reserve, the local people do have a very good relationship with the nature reserve. Yes, our study is based on the very famous Ostrom's SES framework. Yeah, Ostrom. Ostrom is the only lady who won the Nobel Prize in Economics. Till now still the only one. And she won the Nobel Prize 10 years ago. And unfortunately, she left us 7 years ago. And soon we will witness her 7th anniversary of her death, the 7th. This is the framework of the social-ecological system framework. You might find that this framework was initially put forward by the Ostrom in 2007. But actually, many persons insisted that there are much more other study, relevant study about this framework before his paper published in 2007. So there's a different opinion. Anyhow, this is a very complicated framework, very complicated. But in one sentence, the actor is the user of the nature resource. So the user of nature resource consists of the traditional user and the new user. The user make use of nature resource. So the nature resource came from the resource system. Here the resource unit. Resource unit means the extraction of the resource. What you can extract from the resource system? That's a frog. And the resource system is stock. That's the sun. The resource system is stock is the frog. So the actor, in one way, extract and harvest the resource unit. In another way, the actor maintain resource system. That means wise use, protect, preserve, conserve. So they follow the strategy, follow the procedure, follow the rule given by the governance system, followed by the governance system, and in context of two, one is the relative ecosystem, and another is the social-ecological and the political setting. That means the resource system, resource unit, actor system, and the governance system, they compose the inner system. And the social, economic, and political setting and the related ecosystem is in outside. And these four systems are interactive to each other. These four systems are interactive to each other, and they generate outcome. This is the autonomous SES framework. I frankly speaking, I learned it all by myself for 1 year, but I still feel very confident and full of ambitious motivation in applying to my study. But nothing is so simple. There are many critics on the SES framework. Someone said the framework is overly complex, it's too complicated. And Ostrom, actually she received many critics like this. It's too complicated, too complex. And Ostrom's response is, the real world is always complex. The real world is always complex. And then the second critic is, there are too many folks in one paper. That means your paper never can be regarded to be narrowed in one interesting topic. It's too extensive. And the response is, though there are many folks in one paper, but the core focus is the outcome. Outcome is the performance of the whole system. So other folks are used to support the core focus, the outcome. Yes, though I am so confident, but that's what took place last month on me. I submit one paper based on another paper based on the SES framework, and I was rejected. I was rejected. I feel distressed because the comments in the paper's conceptual frame lack no value because it's based on the well-known Ostrom framework. Yes, that's the comments from the editor. You feel very depressed, especially when you're full of ambitious motivation. And it's impossible for me to ask Ostrom, But I do send a mail to Ostrom's colleague. I sent several mail, but only one person responds to me. Yes, we do have a colleague in the School of Marine and Environmental School, but that lady did not respond to me. But I do get one response. The response is like this. Firstly, there are very few empirical applications based on the autonomous SES framework. That means there's not too many application of the framework, but too few. So the colleague of astronomy, I think that she is a little bit angry for the editor's comments, and she believes that we should never always comment the application based on autonomous framework to be without novelty. That's first. And the second is that the framework is used in a diagnostic manner. That's why it's so complicated. Just like a doctor to diagnose the health issues. So doctor will ask you, how do you feel? How do you feel for food? How do you feel for water? How do you feel for weather? What about your sleeping? The doctor will ask you many things. While we usually will not say, you asked me too much. No, you should have better asked me as more as possible. Usually, but for this framework, yes, you do receive many criticisms for asthma, but the colleague of autonomy said, oh no, it's for diagnostic manner. So it's not. We must be so complicated. We must be, otherwise we cannot reflect the real world. In our study, we have three level tile. What's tile? Something like this. This is the first tile. We have 8 variables. First tile, and for example, for resource system, the resource system is at the first tile. Resource system can be decomposed into a second tile. That means we can have several second tile variables to describe the characteristics of a resource system. So we will have a second tile, and we can describe more detailed in third tile variables. Because we will have the first tile, second tile, and the third tile. Multiple tiles. Yes, this makes the framework very complicated. At the first tile, we have 8 variables. In our study, we employ 7. And the second tile, there are 56 variables. We select 19. And at the third tile, there are more than 100 variables. But we select 22. So we do notice that it's also some kind of weakness of the framework, because the choice of variables might depend on your judgment. For different person, for different scholar with different experience, you might you might make different judgment. So which is better or which is suitable? You might not have the correct answer. Okay, yeah. So anyhow, we try to follow the existing literature. That's our first treatment. And the second, we try to match the real world, match the practical situation. That's what we do. So this is the study area in our newspaper. Fujian in the south of China. The south of China is a lot of collective forest. Fujian, and we select 3 nature reserve based on our discussion with provincial nature reserve administration staff. So this one is in the west of Fujian province. And actually, they have very harmonious relationship between the nature reserve and the local community. This one, a conflict, very serious, and this one is somewhat conflict. So these 3 nature reserves demonstrate 3 different situations. Yes, here is some characteristics of the study area. Yes, even this one. The major city is still at the county level city. We have county, we have city. Some city actually the same as county. However, this place is more industrialized. And this one is dominated by the agriculture. And this one has increasing importance of tourism. So these three areas differ to each other. And then I found the first one quite poor. And the third one is a bit more richer. And the environmental policy for the first one is very strict. And the third one is a little bit weak. So that means that there are very significant heterogeneity among different areas. Yes, we do collect the data. Our data is featured by the, what do we say, qualitative data, not so much quantitative data. Yes, that's a very typical feature of this framework, or the study based on the framework. Yes, Ostrom argued that we need more quantitative study, but right now still you cannot find many quantitative study. Most still qualitative study. Yes, let me show you the results. I have mentioned this one, this nature reserve C nature reserve is the Hamner's relationship. And for this one is somewhat conflict. And for this one is strongly conflict. So how to measure the different relationship? For this one, conflict. What's the conflict? The local people argue for many times to the administration, to the nature reserve administration, and the local people say, aha, please move our collective forest out of the nature reserve, please. And they go to complain for several times. And the nature reserve administration staff, they dare not, in most cases, dare not to dialogue directly with the local people. Every time they talk with the local people say, aha, return me the collective forest. That's very serious conflict. So for this one, the harmonious relationship is local people coexist where we are with the nature reserve. They help each other. The nature reserve administration say, aha, please help us strengthen the law enforcement. If anybody from outside came in, tell us, report to us. Local people say, oh, no problem, that's our pleasure. And then the local people ask the nature reserve administration, they will report their demand to improve the livelihood to the nature reserve administration. Can you do us a favor? You see our road is broken, can you help us to repair the nature reserve administration? Okay, we will try to apply money for you to help you. So they do in a harmony. But for this one, for this nature reserve, something different, because the local people, I have mentioned for this county, there is very fast growing tourism, and this nature reserve is a very nice place for tourists. So the local people want to build large house to accommodate more tourists and to make more money. So they go to the nature reserve administration and say, could you allow us to harvest timber? We want to build a house. Could you allow us to rebuild? The nature reserve administration always says, oh no, we can't break the law. So slowly but slowly, the local people show their hostility to the nature reserve. That's where we say something different. Yes. We diagnosis from 6 aspects. The first, we have had a result. We have a result, 3 different situations. The first aspect is the resource system. Resource system, We do find the difference of resource system among these three nature reserves. Yes, the ratio of collective forest in the nature reserve to the nature reserve area for these two nature reserve, this one is somewhat conflict. If this one is a very serious conflict. The ratio of collective forest nature reserve to nature reserve area are extremely high. And what's worse is that the ratio of forest plantation in the nature reserve for this nature reserve, this conflict nature reserve, is very high. So this is a very significant result. Why? The forest plantation. The forest plantation means what? Means the forest plantation was established by the local people. So the local people input labor, input money for the establishment of the forest plantation. But right now, the forests are involved in the nature reserve. The nature people cannot harvest. They can't harvest the timber. That means they can't take back their investment. That will be a huge economic loss. But for other two nature reserve, most collective forests involved in the nature reserve for naturally regeneration. So that's something different. Some are natural regeneration, some are forest plantation. That's the first aspect, resource system. The second aspect is the resource unit. Resource unit. That's what we say, the extraction based on the resource system. So the economic value of the collective forest resource for the first nature reserve is somewhat low. Why low? Because the timber is not in higher quality, so there cannot be in higher economic value. But for the second one, it's high because the natural resource can be used for tourism. But for the third one, it's totally for timber harvest. So even they are high, they have a different implication. And for the number of units can be used, you can find for the third one, the timber can be harvested actually at high, though they are not allowed to be harvested. And the number of the bamboo for the third nature reserve also high. The third aspect is the actors. We have explained that actors consist of the traditional user and the new user. The actors also show their, in different nature reserves, show their heterogeneity. For the first, you might see the number of direct user of the collective forest per square kilometer. For the third one is very high. That means there will be high demand on the nature resource. And for the tourist, you might find for the second nature reserve, the number of tourists actually grows rapidly. And for economic condition, you might find the first one is very poor. And the third one is mostly poor. Very interesting is the final one. The final variable is the ratio of adult failed to afford marriage. That means, especially for gentlemen, the gentleman is 30 years old, he cannot afford to marry to find a wife. That means a very bad economic situation. That also means some social problem. In continue, you may find that the leadership hand of a village community to lead collective action for the first one and the second one, nature reserve, is very strong, and for the third one is very weak. This means, since if the leadership of the hand of the village community is very strong, yes, this means it's easy to establish a dialogue mechanism between nature reserve and the community, so they can involve in negotiation to solve the existing conflicts if the leadership is strong. And the importance of a resource, yes, you may find that the difference for different nature reserve is also quite consistent with the characteristics of the resource unit we have been mentioning. The first one is the heterogeneity of governance. The governance is very important. The first is the government organization. You might find that for the first and the second nature reserve, the administration of the national administration, the tier of the administrative tier is at the national level. These two are national nature reserve. So that's at the administrative level, that's the same as the local community government, the same. But if the provincial nature reserve, that's one level lower than the local government. Yes, that's something different. So the capacity of the village community for the first and second is also very strong. And for the presence of the NGOs, for the first and second, they are present, but for the third one is absent. The network structure for first and the second, means the structure in co-management is strong, but for the market network, for the second and the third is very strong. There's something different. Something different. Yes, once the co-management is very strong, that means that there will be more tighter collaboration between the nature reserve and the local and the nearby community. The co-management. Yes. Actually, the co-management exists between two sides. Besides, there are the property right system and operational rule and some other factors in the governance. You might find that the rule for the first is very strong, for the second is middle, and for the third is very weak. This means the government, the rule and the procedure given by the governance play different rules on three different nature reserves and their nearby community. The fifth is the social-economic and the political setting. This is the fifth. You might find for the first one, they are very beneficial setting for the first one. Beneficial, especially they have very strong police system from outside. That's for the first nature reserve. But for the third one, just quite weak. But for the second one, they face very, we say, the strong impacts from outside. The impacts mostly concerning the commercial the commercial factors. As they have more strong motivation in developing economy. Therefore, we have the sixth one is the interaction. That means the process among different systems. The process. The first is information sharing. The second is deliberation process. The third is conflict resolution. You might find that for the first one, they have very strong information sharing, and they have very strong self-organization activities. They also have very strong networking activities. But for the third one, everything is weak. Yes, we do finish the whole process for diagnosis for the person. Yes, we have a result, and we look into the details of the 6 aspects of the factors inside the framework, and then we can make some discussion. The first is that it's one of the very few applications based on the SES framework to investigate the relationship between nature reserve and the nearby community, not only in China but also globally. You cannot find many applications in this field. I had no idea why there are so few. I don't know why, but you can find very few. The second is that you might find that according to the existing literature, it's very interesting if you can extend the existing framework founded by Australia. Yes, it's still, many persons try to extend this framework, but anyhow, it's a theoretical framework. theoretical framework. Yes, you might find that many scholars try to extend, but it's not so easy. Conclusion might be, you might find that for these three cases, nature reserve. Yes, for the first one, the interest adversely affected by the nature reserve is low, not so high. You may find because the collective forest involved in the nature reserve for the first one is not so high. So that means their interest. That means the local community are not affected very much by the nature reserve. But for the third one is very high, because you know that most of the collective forests are forest plantation. And for the second one, it's increasing high because they want to make use of the forest to develop tourism. That's the first aspect. And the second is the effective of the nature reserves policy in offset economic loss of the farmers. For the first one, they do have some very useful measures to offset such negative impacts. But for the third one, they do not have. Because they do not have a very good connection between the community and the nature reserve. And the nature reserve are not so, nature reserve administrative and not so powerful in offering such economic compensation to the community. So that's some part of the third one, the effectiveness of nature reserves institution in regulating nature reserve use. For the first one, the second one is very strong. You might know that, especially for the first nature reserve, the local environmental protection policy is very strict. So that's also beneficial to the nature reserve. You know, nature reserve is one part of the nature environmental protection activities. The third aspect is that impact the self-organization of community to nature reserve. The self-organization means the governance at the community level. As community, how they operate effective. You might find for the first one is very positive, and for the third one is very negative. That means for the first one, the local community are well organized, so they can respond to the effect of the nature reserve in a very positive direction. That's what we say win-win. But for the third one, lose to lose. That's not positive response, that's negative response. And the fifth one is assistance to community development from social and economic setting. For the first one, is very strong. They have very long history to help local people and poverty. Though right now the local people still not so rich, but they have very long history in implementation of the ecological protection program. They do have such program for a long time, more than 20 years. But for the third one, very short time, and they have very few projects to support the local development. That's why there's such outcome. For the first nature reserve, that's good. For the third nature reserve, that's bad. And then for the second nature reserve, is somewhat bad. That's the whole story about the application of the Australian SEFS framework into investigating three nature reserves and their nearby community in China. Very simple story, possibly boring. Thank you for your attention.